Photoshop Senior Edition, folks. One of the things I like to do a lot is to grab images from all over the internet. Just grab them and take them into Photoshop and work on them. And a lot of times I'll just throw it away after I practice on doing stuff, and sometimes I'll post stuff on Facebook. But in this particular case, you can see I'm at CNN, their website, and I want to capture this picture. I'm an ex-Navy guy. Of course, always, if you're in the Navy, you're always a sailor. So what we're going to do is grab this image and take it into Photoshop real quick. And how we do that in Windows is easy enough. I don't remember how to do it on a Macintosh, but what we do on a PC is hold down the Control key and press the print screen button, which should be up by your F12 button at the top right. Hold down Control, print screen. You don't see anything happen, but what it does is capture that into your virtual clipboard. And now we're going to go into Photoshop and say we want a new file. And what that's going to do is give us a default untitled. I'm just going to say plain around, all one word. These are the dimensions of my computer screen. So all I have to do is hit create. Once I have that blank slate, so to speak, all I have to do to give it the image that's captured in the virtual clipboard is hold down the Control key and press the letter V as in victory. There's the entire page and the background of on my computer sitting there. So what I need to do now, because I just want this out of the whole thing, so we'll turn on the marquee tool and click and make a selection just around the part that we want, and then we go to image or crop, and it chops everything off except that. That's the entire image now. It's cropped down to that. So let's see how big it is. Let's go to image and image size. Well, I know I've mentioned in other videos the best size to save things to work on them or put them on the internet. Email, Facebook, so forth. For an image like this, we'd measure it in pixels and we would go with 640. If this were a vertical image, that is taller than it is wide, we'd make this about 480 to 500, and we don't worry about the height right now. That takes care of itself, and we just click OK. So now it's 640. We got a little white there at the top that I didn't chop off. That's okay, we can work with that. We're going to make this image bigger to give us some space to create in, put some text in. So what I'm going to do is make a copy of this. So I go over to my layers palette and do a Control J as in John and have an exact copy, and that's just my backup. So let's look at the canvas here. Let's go to image and canvas size. Now if I just wanted to add something to the top of this, I would click on this to say I want the picture moved down and I want to put the text up here. And then we make the height, we could just add like 2 inches, so we could say 7 inches instead of 5, and click OK. So it creates 2 inches more space at the top. Well, in this particular case, I want to create space top and bottom. So let's undo that, Control Z, and let's go back to image and canvas size again. And this time we just want to click it in the middle, keep it right there. And now let's make this much bigger. Let's make this like a 9 so we have plenty of space. We can crop it back off if we don't need it and click OK. So now you see we've got plenty of space top and bottom. Well, what I like to do is fill the space that I create with information from the picture. So it's, you know, a nice flow of what's already there. I don't want to just type up here and put anchors away, my boy, top and bottom. So it would just look not as cool, in my opinion. So I'm going to click on the marquee tool and click and drag a selection like this. Now, a good idea is to feather this. So if you don't feather this first, it's going to be a straight line, and it can be very noticeable. But we can still, after we make the selection, we can still soften this edge by going to select, modify, feather, and we'll just do it like 3 pixels. So that'll soften the transition between here and here. Now I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, and if it's on foreground, background, whatever, go to Content Aware and just click OK. And it magically fills with the data that was just underneath it. So this makes a much nicer transition to put text on than just having a black and then the image. So we're going to do the same thing down at the bottom, but you're going to see a problem happens when we do that. So let's just go down here, and again we can go to select, modify, and feather this by 3, and go to Edit and Fill, Content Aware, click OK, and it's filled with battleships. So that doesn't really work for us. So I knew that was going to happen. It happens a lot on many things that we do. So what we're going to do is get rid of the battleships, and that's why we needed 2 copies. So what I'm going to do is make a selection out of the battleships that are here. So I'm just going to go around here and just get us fairly close to it as I can. And we're going to do, excuse me, a content aware fill of it. So now we got rid of the battleships. Cool. All right, so now we've got the battleship on a layer below. So we don't have to worry that the battleships are all gone. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to, whoops, don't want that, Control D. Oh, didn't want that either. Wanted that. I'm going to try Control D again. In the new version of Photoshop right now, there's a little bug, and sometimes it leaves marching ants standing still, and we can't deselect them for whatever reason. So now I'm going to do the content aware fill at the bottom. Now we don't have the battleship showing, right? So let's try it. Fill. So now we have the waves all the way down. So let's take the layer that has the battleships and move it to the top. And we've got a little bit of an issue up here where that white line was, I forgot about earlier. So we can just make a tiny little selection out of that to fill it. And right here is the patch tool. The patch tool allows us to click and drag that to a place that's good to fill the place that's not good. So now we have ocean top and bottom. Now I know the bottom looks a little messy, but since we're putting text over the top of it, it's not going to be that apparent. So let's create a text layer. So we're just going to click right up here, and let's say anchors away. And I'm going to move that over. Now, I'm using Times New Roman, which is going to work really great for this little deal here. And it's bold. So make sure you don't have it on regular, but bold. And then another little trick that you can do, this little file folder looking thing right there is also a text button that gives you controls, all kinds of controls. And one of the things that you can click on are these T's right here. So if you've got your text selected, if I double click on that text and I click on this fat T right here, it makes the text even chunkier, fatter, whatever, more bold. Okay, so then we'll just click on this check box or over here to complete that text. Now then we can do a Control T to make that even bigger. So we'll spread it out a little bit. We want to make it pretty good size. We created that space for something. We don't want to make it so huge that the text looks funny. Okay, so let's find a better color for the text. So if we double click on the T over here in the layers palette, that loads the text up. Let's complete the transition here. Let's apply that and double click on the T again, and let's click on, you can click on that color sample deal, this color sample deal, whichever one. Let's go in there and sample the dark blues and use that, maybe something a little lighter, and we're going to transform this a little bit. So we click OK, and again we can click on the move tool and we can situate that wherever we want. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I'm holding down the Control key and the space bar and left clicking on the mouse because I want you to be able to see this. When I go down and click on the little FX button, we can bring up the big box. And what we're going to do is turn on bevel and emboss. So we just click on that right there, and you see the text quickly changed. Switch this to chisel hard, and then the depth of that chisel is controlled right here. Let's zoom in some more so you can appreciate this a little bit more. So we can adjust that, adjust the amount of light on the edges. Here's the depth again. Okay, it's important to have a little shine, a little bit of light there. And then what we do is click on this right here is the contour. And all of these, well, most of these will have quite a different look. So you can experiment and see which one you like the best. And then again, you can go back over here and make some adjustments on how that is going to look. Okay? Let's go with one other thing. Let's click on stroke, and if your color isn't, or if the line is jumped up really big, you want to just type in size. I went with a 3. And it looks pretty decent. Okay, and I would also change this fill type from gradient to color, and then click on the color box and select white, because it may give you, if you've got gradient on it, may give you a totally different thing. But we want fill type, color, and then color white. Alright, let's click OK, and let's zoom out so we can see what we've got there. So, there's what we got. Now, we want text at the bottom as well. I don't want to put text in and recreate all of this stuff that we just did with the text. So what I'm going to do is come over here to the Anchors Away text and do a Control J. That gives us another copy of just that particular layer. So if I go down here, there's the same Anchors Away copy. Now let's drag that copy down, and if I hold down the Shift key, it'll come straight down. Now we don't want to say Anchors Away, Anchors Away. We're going to change this one, double click on it, into my boy, and exclamation mark. So Anchors Away, my boy. Alright, there's just one thing missing, and I would put a drop shadow on it to give it another little cool effect. So if we go to, let's just complete the transform, either hit the checkbox that's at the top or the move tool, click on the FX again, and I'm going to bring up the drop shadow, and you can see what's there right now by the setting I used last. So you can make it a harder shadow or a softer shadow by changing the opacity and the size of the shadow, how much it's going to spread, and how far away. Now you can click and drag that shadow to go wherever you want it to. But see how it's affecting, as I move that, it's affecting this. So uncheck the global light, and then when you move it, it doesn't affect anything else. So get it where you want it, and I'm not going to spread it quite so much, and I'm going to click OK. Now it looks pretty good. It's standing away from the image, so it gives it some depth, but I want that on here too, but I don't want to have to recreate it. So go over to the FX and right click, and you're going to have options. One of them is called Copy Layer Style. You can't see it on the screen, but it's right here, right straight from here. Copy Layer Style. Then we go to the other text that's on here, which is right here. It has an FX on it too, so right click on it and say Paste Layer Style. And that adds the drop shadow and all the stuff that was in the special effects, and now it's on top and bottom. Zoom out a little bit and you can see how it looks. So we have a little extra there that we don't need. So what we can do is click on the rectangular marquee tool, just draw a selection and go to Image, Crop, and Control D to turn off the marching ants, and we're ready to post it. And see where that we fixed the C to make extra C. It doesn't look so weird anymore because the text is over the top of it. And if somebody just sees this on, if we send it in an email or post it on Facebook or somewhere, they're just not going to notice that down there. The other thing you can do, of course, is turn the text off down here on the bottom, and you can actually click on the layer here, and you can, work at cleaning some of this up. Use the patch tool here, and that's not the right layer, so let's click on the right layer and see we can make changes to that if we want to, and then we can go back up and turn the text back on and see how it looks then. So there's some things there that we can play with. Now we had this image too that we worked on in another video, and we put this with the calendar. But let's say we wanted to send a greeting card to somebody, and we wanted to use a favorite image of ours to do that. Well, first of all, we need to make sure it's the right size. So let's go into image size, and yeah, this is huge. So the first thing we do is change this to 72, and we can change this then to 640. Click OK. And now let's make it bigger. Control plus, Command plus on a Mac. And notice down here that's only 66%. If we go to 100%, it's pretty good size. Alright, so let's make it a little bit smaller because we want room to work. We're going to create some blank canvas again, because I'm going to show you something that's a little bit different. So image, canvas size, and again we're going to create text top and bottom. So we click in the middle and we add, let's say we're going to put 12 inches on. That's a lot. That's okay. Now we're going to do things a little bit differently. This time we're going to fill it with colors that are from the image. So down here on the bottom, I'm going to use the marquee tool, and I'm going to click and drag on this area that's blank. And I'm going to click on the color tool down here. And I'm going to go in with my color picker, and I can click on the brown colors that are here in the image. I can click on the black. I can click on the orangey rusty color. Let's just click down here in the leaves. Okay, and then all we have to do is edit and fill, and we want with the foreground color, which is right there on top, and there is that color. Now we can also, at this point, we can clone a little bit of this stuff in to transition from this image to this space. So if we turn on the rubber stamp tool or the clone stamp tool, and we want a big brush, so let's go up here, and we want the hardness all the way to the left so it's nice and soft, and that's a pretty big brush. There, that's a pretty good size. Let me click on this to make sure there's no special stuff turned on. Nope, that's good. And so let's go in here and sample some of the leaves, but we need to turn this way down. And so let's click here, and then we're just going to kind of paint. Now we want to sample from different places. If we don't, it's going to show a pattern which will really stand out. So you don't want to do that. And we click more on that line so that hard line isn't there anymore. Okay, so we sample a few places. And then once we get a little bit of this going, we can make our brush bigger. Let's right click and make that a little bit bigger. And now we can sample from even here and get a little faint bit of leaves. So there, you've got a transition from the leaves into this tan color. All right, what about up here? Why not do the same thing? Let's get our layers back up here. And really, I should have created a blank layer. So if you want to kind of get rid of anything quickly, you can. So let's use the marquee tool so we can fill that area. And let's get it right on there. And let's sample the colors that are in the image. We can fill it with the tree, which is very dark. We can go with some of this tan that's here. Let's just try that. So this time to fill it, I'm going to hold down the Alt key and hit backspace. Okay, and then Control D. And then to fill this, again like we did a while ago, we turn on the clone stamp tool and we sample from here and just kind of put that in there. We can click up from there and draw. Remember the edge especially needs to be gone over several times so that hard line goes away. So let's go down here. Let's go back to the tree and kind of run it up again along that same edge. See what happens when you aren't careful. You get those hard lines and then they're harder to cover up. So then when we've got, again, some of this stuff is up here, we can sample from up in here and paint. Now I caution you, one of the things that I've run into that's problematic is if this aligned is checked, it can really be a pain in what it does to what you're working on. Let's just kind of work on that edge right there to soften it. And the other way you can soften it is go over here to the blur tool, and you can kind of work it a little bit, and that blends those edges a little bit. Alright, so we've kind of got this going on now. I wasn't very careful up here, but I think you get the idea. It's time for us to put some text in here. So I'm going to click a text box this time because I have a little more room and I can say more if I want to. And we want to use a different kind of font. Let's just see what Arial looks like in here. And we can't see it with that color, so let's click on something dark for now just so we can see what we're getting. Okay, and then I'm gonna say sending you my best wishes, and we can address that being a little bit too large. Control A, sorry, and then drag that font. Just click right on the T's there to make it larger or smaller. So there's about there is going to fit nicely. So we click on the checkbox there, and then we go down to the bottom, do the same thing. Let's see, I'm holding down the space bar, kind of shifting that over a little bit. Sending you my best wishes and hope you are better soon. So we can do whatever we want as far as the color on the text, as we already know. So let's double click the first text, and let's just click on the color picker, and let's go in here in search of a nice color. Well, let's say that reddish color in there. Let's see how that looks. Alright, not great right now, but let's go in and click on the FX button and see what it looks like if we put a drop shadow on it. And that's way harsh, too big a spread. And let's see, what else can we do here? Let's put a stroke on it, and instead of white, let's see if we can't find a complementary color. Let's go down here to maybe a yellowish color instead. I didn't get it to happen, did I? Whoops. It's way more yellowish than I wanted. Let's try something like that. And we can change the drop shadow color if we want to. So let's just say never know what you're gonna get. Not really liking the reddish color too much on the text, so let's double click that again, and let's go fishing for another color. And maybe let's click on the move tool. Let's go back to the stroke and change that stroke to something much lighter. Okay. Now, let's say we wanted that same thing to happen down here on this. We click OK, and we just do the same thing that we did before. We right click on the FX, and we go to Copy Layer Style, click on this text, right click out here, and go to Paste Layer Style. And we don't have the same color. So here's what we do. Let's double click this so we can copy the text. So I'm just going to click and do a Control C, and I'm going to throw that away. And I'm going to copy the text that we have here, Control J, and the text shift, hold down the shift key and bring it down, and now double click it and do Control V as in victory. So we don't have the right color still yet. So let's go in and sample the color. So let's double click that. Oops, wrong one. Double click this one. And we're going to click on this color sampler up here. Click right on the font and finish it off with that. Now, since this is on a darker background than this is, we can change the stroke that's on here a little bit. So let's go down, or this one, and click on stroke, double click it, and we can make it darker. Oops, it's on stroke. Let's see what it is doing here. I don't know why it's covering it all in. Let me see what happens when we get it a little darker up here. Yeah, that looks good. I don't know why it was doing that. Let's adjust the drop shadow on this one. And if we had these connected, if this was on, if I move this down here, if we had if we'd created these at the same time the same way, this would be also changing this one. Let me show you what I mean. Now that Global Light's on here, if I go back to this one and change the drop shadow to Global Light, now when we move it, well, it's not affecting it. Normally, or used to be, one would affect the other. So I'm going to turn that back off, go back down, keep going to the wrong one, and I want this one to be a little darker on the drop shadow. It's not, there it goes. Let's go to black with this. Go down there and darker. We got that more purpley going up there. I want it darker here. And a little bit more spread. And that jumps out. I think I don't like that drop shadow color on that one either. Let's go to black. Now we're cooking. So you see we can do all kinds of things. If I would have worked a little bit harder, and I got some of the text cut off. I can't believe I did that. We can bring that there. And I'm going to use the arrow keys. If the move tool is selected, we can use the arrow keys to move it up and down. We can bring that up there more, and we can bring that one up there down using the arrow keys again, because we don't need all that other. Use the marquee tool to select, and then image to crop, and deselect, and there we go. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on cards that you can send out. You can do this Christmas cards any time you want to send somebody something nice. If you do these at 300 instead of the 72, you can print these out as a regular size card. Okay, talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.